So guys, everyone just a little bit of attention here so that I can introduce Prashant. Super excited to host Prashant at our office. Prashant heads all operations at Swagup in the US. And I think when we were exploring the space, and this is even before we launched Swageazy, two companies we were very impressed by in the US. One was Swagup and the other was Swag.com. And I think both went on to do great things. I was very fortunate to even meet the Swag.com founder, Jeremy, when I was in the US. But now super excited. I met Prashant there and had great discussion about the industry, how things are in the US, how this US-India corridor is doing. And then I think now when he's visiting India, he's kind enough to be at our office and spend some time with us. Also, I think I let Prashant introduce himself, but he has more than a decade of experience in supply chain, logistics, operations. And I think he's been a great mentor for us, as well as I keep following him, what he does, even share on LinkedIn. So I think some of the things we'll definitely touch upon is culture and leadership, which I think is something very close to Prashant. So Prashant, super excited to have you.
Thank you. Just a little bit about myself. I started my, I would say, professional journey in US in 2001. Started in the military after 9/11. I was in the US Marines for 8 years. And then from there, I started working for Fortune 500 companies, from Target, Bed Bath & Beyond. I'm sure some of the names you probably heard about, like Macy's and so forth. And then I joined private equity side of the companies, where I went from medical device companies to logistics company, to regular e-com, and now in the promotion industry. So all of them heading supply chain for all those industries and the companies. So that's been my side of the little bit of career journey. I've been everywhere, but it's still not enough to understand full supply chain for anyone. So I'm happy to be here and discuss some of the things. What have you guys been working on?
Awesome. I think amazing journey from military to Fortune 500 to a startup. Like, what did you enjoy most?
I would say all three of them. All three are different animals, I can say. With the military, it's very structured, organized. I was organization, right? Any military you go to, playbook is there. You just have to work hard physically and mentally and get things done. When you look at the Fortune 500, it's a very good transition because a lot of SOPs is already inbuilt and the structure is there. So the transition is better. But when it comes to the startup, you have to wear a lot of hats. You have to wear your creativity hat. You have to do 5 jobs with a 1 job pay. That is the part you have to do it. It's just the way all startup works. So for me, it's a learning curve, regardless of where I am.
I think you just scared a lot of people by touching upon the last part, which is startups and 5 jobs in a single job pay. But very interesting. I think we would love for you to take us through your journey at Swagup. So I think for the context, all of us are a part of Swageazy, which is, in the same space and in the Indian market, in Indian context. Would love for you to touch upon how big is this market in the US? Because I've spent some time in the US, and every time I go there, it blows my mind. How big is this, right? But for the team, for the larger audiences here, how big is the swag market in the US?
So everybody has probably heard about PPAI, which is one of the organizations that dives into the promotion industry. The known number for just for US is about 24 to 25 billion dollars. Total in all over the world is probably 35 to 40 billion. That is known number. Now, the crazy part about this is the unknown numbers, where all the small distributors, suppliers, manufacturers are also part of it, which has never been part of that PPAI number. There's another probably $20 billion on top of it. So in my perspective, it's about $55 to $60 billion market all over the world that is probably known as of right now.
Wow, $60 billion.
60 billion, lots of zeros.
Yeah, lots of zeros. If we turn that into INR, more zeros, right? A lot more.
Somebody in the back should start doing that.
But awesome. I think the Indian context, I think, again, the known number is around $3 billion, $3 to $4 billion. But again, as you said, right, in India also the context is an unknown number is touching close to 10% of that, which is $5 to $6 billion. The $60 billion market obviously seems like a legend and a myth, right? Break it down for us. Are there companies doing revenues in forms of billions of dollars? Are there companies doing, maybe in India, the market is $6 billion, but we don't even have a single company today doing 1,000 crores, which is what? $200 million? So we have nobody in India today doing $200 million as an organization in this space.
Yes. So there are multiple companies that are doing billion plus. There are
Wow.
multiple
Revenue.
revenue, not a valuation, revenue. There are multiple companies doing more than $200 million as well in this space. The one thing that this space has gotten right is the part where you start sticking to the projects that you're working and start getting feedback and continue to work on it. Most of those companies you will see they have figured it out what works for them and sticking to that and not going all over the place. And that is their key to success.
Wow. Amazing. I think companies doing $1 billion in revenue, and I think we're just getting started in India. So I think we have a huge, huge opportunity ahead.
Right. And I'll just break it down even more for everyone here. When I'm looking at the B2B section only, there are three different categories I look at. Number one, the company who does and service the clients who are very small based. They only wanted to do 25, 50 items for startup companies and so forth. The second one is who does from 20 million to $100 million companies in this industry, who serves their clientele who are all about $100 million plus. And then there are anything that goes about 100 million or 200 million, going up to the $1 billion. Those are the ones who are serving Fortune 500 companies. So that's how it's been spread out.
Interesting. And I think I've followed Swagup's journey for a while, right? And I think, if I'm not wrong, it started in 2016, 2017 in Michael's, I think, mother's garage, right?
Yes.
And from there to where it is today, I think in 8 years or so, just take us through that journey. How's that been? And I think you've been a part of Swagup for last more than 3 years now, right? So you've seen a
3 years today.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
So yes, I hit 3 years today, and it's been a great journey. And Michael, who was very young at that point, he was in early 20s. He's still in 20s. Think about that way. Very, very confident gentleman, and he has built from the garage itself. He was delivering boxes, making boxes in his house with his friends and family, and that's how he started in his mom's garage. And he literally rented that out for a few months, and then rest is the history. And he is amazing at making sure that his team, his company's brand is being taken care of the right way. And also along the way, very, very persistent on sales. He wants to make sure that the sales is done the right way so that the reputation of the customer is always happening for year over year.
Very interesting. Double down on sales, right? So I think sales is something very close to us as well here at Swageazy. I think we are in our third year, so very, very early in our journey. I'm not in early 20s now, so I think that felt a little old, right? But I think overall, from a sales perspective, what are some of the things that you started off early on, which you continue to do today? It could be a cultural thing, it could be a systematic thing or a process thing that really worked for you, that you owe a lot of credit to while looking back now.
I would give most of the credit to Michael on this one. He is the tip of the spear when it comes to anything with the sales. He has done a lot of great work building their own SOPs. But what he also does for the team is the ease via tech, right? A lot of things we started doing manually, but he made sure that every day, every week, every month, he's fixing one of the items, automating it, and making it easy for his team. So that's internally what he's done. Externally, he made sure, usually CEOs don't send out emails to a lot of the customers. Usually that's how it works. He is never shy of it. He just calls, he texts, he sends emails, mass emails to his customer for any kind of feedback, and he takes those feedback to the heart and makes sure that company changes, if any changes needs to be made, any given point. He fixes it via technology or even manually in the starting just to make sure it happens.
Interesting. And tell me some of the trends that you're looking at now, which you already see that possibly in 5 years from now will become a norm, right? So I think You've seen in the past, there are people who pick up on trends early and they become sort of torchbearers for that particular set. And I know, and we've discussed a lot of it, and I think you're very, very hands-on when it comes to what's happening outside of the US, in the US, in the Europe region. So tell us some of the trends that you are looking and following very, very closely, and you expect them to become a trend or a norm.
Sure. So I'm an operation guy, right? I'm not your typical sales guy. So I have a different set of views. My job is to get the product that the customer wants it to their doorsteps. That's my job. And one of the trends that I'm looking at it that as a U.S. perspective, a lot of executives I talk to, or any companies that I talk to, they are kind of walking away from anything that builds in China. And they are looking a lot more into other countries like Philippines, India, Mexico, depending on what manufacturing they're looking into or what product they're looking into, but a lot into India perspective. And which is why I'm also here. I'm also trying to source for the company in the same format. So I would say that trend has picked up and will be picking up for at least 3 to 5 years. India has something to give, and I think that will be huge in coming years.
Awesome. And tell us about environmental friendly as a theme, right? So every time we get on a call with our US customers, there are certain things which is, I think, very new to India. So sustainability as a compliance perspective, less use of plastic in packaging, how are we sourcing, how are we manufacturing? So in India, it's just getting started. But where is this trend in the US?
I would say a lot of companies, especially who's listed at the NASDAQ or NYSE on the Stock Exchange, mostly Fortune 500 companies and beyond, everyone is looking for sustainable products. Everybody is very eco-friendly, green mindset. Even in promotion industry, a lot of individuals or a lot of customers are asking us for sustainability product and eco-friendly product. The one thing they wanted to make sure that we are going after ESG program, which is environmental, social, and governance program. You will see it online if you search it, and you have to get those certifications depending on what industry you are in. You could be in manufacturing, you could be on the supplier side, distribution side. All of them has a different certification and licensing. I believe that's where the game is now. That's where the whole world is moving, and there's a reason behind it too. One of the main reasons is there's a change of hands happening in the world when it comes to the wealth. The money is changing. Who is going to now? There's a lot of traditional folks that are retiring and now giving that money to their next of kin or whoever the next person is into their family who is now in 20s and 30s. And those individuals who are millennium and below, they are very highly focused on green and eco-friendly products and so forth, and making sure that they're investing in those things. So there's also reasoning behind it, not just because of how the environment is, but it's also the change of wealth is happening, or change of hands of the wealth is happening. So it is definitely, and in promotion industry, every day I go on a call and somebody's always asking me, do we have a sustainable product or not? And that's something that is huge. It could be any product. So if you go online, Adidas has came out with a full line of only sustainable product for promotion industry. If you go to any exhibition, you will see Adidas as one of those lines product, and there's a reason they did that, to stay ahead of the game.
Very interesting. And a lot of consolidation happening that I see in the promotional space in the US, right? I think last week itself, Printful and Printify merged, right? Swag.com was acquired by another company. There's a lot happening in the acquisition and merger space. How do you look at that? Like, what's happening there?
I look at the misery loves company in a way, because everybody's in the same industry. Everybody wants to, thrive. And all jokes aside, I think it's they complement each other, right? Not one person can do everything, so might as well merge sometimes. So there might be different reasons why a lot of companies are merging, but mostly is because they complement each other. One could be a very tech heavy, one could be very operational heavy. One person can have a better talent. One company could have just a better sourcing. So it could be complementing each other, and that's the reason they are merging. And that's about it.
Perfect. I'll ask a question that my investors, when I was pitching for fundraising, asked a lot, right? And I think, again, when we'll do that, this question will come. So would love to have your views on that. Why are companies in the US, despite $1 billion in revenue, have no presence in India? They're not here locally, right? They have not launched India. Even Swagup in 8 years. Why did you guys never thought about launching India or expanding beyond the US?
So there are multiple reasons. Technical reasons, one of them is India has never been looked as manufacturing hub, which is changing now. China has always been looked at as a manufacturing hub, and which is why everything was going there. Labor is much cheaper, used to be much cheaper in China than in India. So it's always, as anybody who's running company, it's all, end of the day is all about bottom line to make sure that their employees are getting paid on regular basis. So when we look at price conscious, China is better to go than in India, which is also changing as we speak and will be changing. Quality, because we were not a manufacturing hub before, India was never a manufacturing hub, the quality was very tough to get to, which is why China also was ahead. And there was one example, and I don't remember the name of the company or whatnot, but a great example of China where they were ahead also is we call it grit, to get things done, right? Get it done no matter what. One of the great example is one of the companies told China they only have certain time to get the product in. China said they were not able to do it, produce it and then ship it. What they did was they got on a ship and they manufactured and assembled all the items on the ship coming from China to US, and it was done within that time frame. So there's no such thing as you can't do it. And that's what they have proven already. So I think this is where India is a little bit lagging behind on that kind of culture. I'm not saying everyone, I'm just saying certain companies who has the talent, and I think can be done better. And that's a good example of China that has done better at that time frame.
That blows my mind, right? Getting on a ship and manufacturing on the go is something most people won't even think about, right? But why not serving the demand in India? So we're still discussing supply chain, right? Why not, for example, what I gather, and I might be wrong, so I look at you to correct me if I am, which is most US companies have presence in India, like the global captive centers, right? So a Salesforce, Fortune 500 company in the US possibly has more than 10,000 employees in India, right? A NASDAQ or any other Fortune 500 company will pick, because India, manufacturing wise, we're getting there, right? We're not there right now. But in terms of talent, in terms of sheer talent of employees in tech, I think we're far ahead, right? And every US company looks to establish offices and bigger centers. So why not thinking of serving the demand in India?
So there are again couple reasons behind it. Number one, when the US was looking at India, the one issue was a lot of companies have got burned by lack of communication, over communication, over exposure to what India or that company can do and whatnot. We are of a generation where we usually don't challenge back to anyone outside. And that's what sometimes burns us in many, many ways. We have to challenge back, and we just don't, we can't get to the point where we say yes to everything and then we don't deliver. And that was the mindset what we have given to the US companies in the past, that we say yes and we just can't deliver at some point. We are too nice of a people. That's what I always have heard from a lot of executives, a lot of companies. But can we deliver? And that's always been a question. So that's what's happening nowadays, that India has turned that corner. And I have seen a lot of great talent challenging back. I said, no, we can't do that. You have an unreasonable expectation, and this is we can deliver the quality, but this is going to be the time frame. This is what's going to cost, and so forth. And it's get delivered. And now a lot of people wants to come to India. It's just a very unexplored territory right now, so it's going to take some time. And governments also have to help. Right now, if you look at the import taxes, it's very, very high in a lot of categories. I think the more demand is going to surge, the more import taxes going to take play the crucial role here.
Yeah, I think I'll move on. I don't want to convince you to launch India. So I think it works better for us if you don't. But I think we'd love to have this partnership, right, to build synergies. Let's touch upon something that is very close to you, which is cultural values, leadership style, right? You share a lot about how your leadership style is. And I've been to Swagup's office, right? The way you manage operations in that huge facility is insane. You know everybody by name, you know exactly what they do, how they do it. So just tell us how you kind of build that up.
So I was fortunate enough to get trained in the military, right? So not everyone is. I took that kind of the culture, that kind of experience into the civilian life. I always say it because military and civilian are two different lifestyles, and I brought it on it. I look at any leader, and I personally like the leadership who exemplifies two style of leadership. One is called transformational, and one is called servant leadership. You have to have both. And why it is important, transformational leadership and skills is very important to teach and have a visionary view of what you want to do, and also allow your team to do whatever on a daily basis for that growth. So you are not that always hovering on their shoulder, always asking every 5 minutes if they are done or not. So sometimes you have to step back and let them steer the wheel. Servant leadership is when you see them struggle and you are also on the floor all the time and help them out and guide them as they are steering the wheel, right? So those two, it complements each other. You cannot just have one. You want to have both of them and have to continue to work on it. And the most important thing, how you know that you are successful in those, is when somebody gives you feedback and you take that feedback positively. That means you have those things. If you don't take it positively, any feedback, then you have an ego, and ego doesn't serve well when it comes to a service or transformation leaders.
Feedback is very tricky in India. I think that is something we're still learning a lot on, because I think constructive feedback is amazing and it's kind of creates that loop where you get better. But a lot of feedback meets a lot of resistance is what I've seen.
Yes, because as Indians, we are very emotional individuals, and feedback cannot be given with emotions. It has to be given by facts and data. So we have to take the emotions out when giving or taking the feedback.
Perfect. Any mantra that you follow with your operations, right? Because you guys are managing at a scale which is massive, right? How do you, so any specific things that help you? You're here in India right now, and I think everything is happening the way it's supposed to be. So is it just SOPs that you have to create and live by, or is it something beyond SOPs as well?
I would say when I'm hiring individuals, or even when I hire any of the leaders that reports under mine, I wanted to make sure that they truly understand that I trust them, right? And it goes both ways, but I want them to fail. I want them to try new things every day. And my first question when they send an email out every day or every once a week, a report, the first thing is always on it where they failed. I don't want to hear where they get successful because I can see that. I wanted to understand what they tried and where they failed so that I know they are trying new things. And when you try new things, that's the only way to get ahead of the curve. So that has always been my mantra. There's no magic ball I have. There's no other things that I follow. Very simple rules when it comes to the leadership styles and leadership thinking and skills that I look for, and I give them space to fail. I think that's easy enough to say.
Perfect. What's your take on what's going to happen in the next couple of years in this space across India and the US?
I would say US will continue to find India a partner, a great partner on the sourcing, procurement, and manufacturing side. It's going to take at least a decade to come out, minimum a decade to come out of China, because been there for many, many years, and a lot of companies already have infrastructure built around it. It's not easy to just pick up infrastructure and move it to somewhere else. So it is going to take some time. However, quality is what the companies are looking for. People will be willing to pay the price for it as long as the quality and the communication is at par.
In India, I think this part of the problem is also saying yes to a lot of things, right?
Yes.
So even suppliers commit and overcommit. And then when it's time to deliver, there are certain delays. And a lot of time, I think that's one thing which we see now changing in India in the last maybe 2 years or so, which is the focus back on quality and timeline. Right. So earlier, when we started this business in India, I still remember like with the first time. So I'm not sure if you guys do this. Let me actually ask. So when the raw product comes in, right? If let's say your printing partner or a production partner who is going to customize it is different and the raw material is coming from a different supplier. So once the raw material hits your warehouse, do you guys do a quality check before you send it off to the customization partner?
So we do both. So one of the two things happen. Sometimes it comes to the warehouse. We do the QA of every single product. We don't do random audits. That's something we walked away from because when somebody's paying $50, $60, $100 for a product, it's not fair to not do a quality check. So a lot of our warehouse payroll goes into a quality check, and we are proud of it that we do those things, and our customer loves it. And the other thing we also do, sometimes the product goes directly to the decorators. They do the quality checks on behalf of us because we already trained them. And then when the product comes back to us to get packed into a box or a pack, we do another quality check on top of the decorations are done properly.
So this might be an exception, right? Because like when I was in the US and when I told somebody that we also do a QA on raw products, they're like, why do you do that? Because I think the trust in the US system is very high, which is they actually trust the suppliers that they will live up to the standard that they've promised, which is very different in the Indian market, right? And what I was sharing earlier is that when we were doing our QAs for the first time, like 2 months into the business, getting the first sales order in, super excited, ordered stuff through our suppliers. It came in, we started doing our QA, and we found a lot of faults, which is what we were not comfortable with. And we were told that this works. I'm like, it doesn't, right? For us, it doesn't. And we were very small, right? So it was a chicken and egg problem where a lot of suppliers decided not to work with us because we were holding them to a higher QA standard, which was a very interesting problem back then. Now, I think most of them are comfortable. Even today, if the market price of certain products is, let's say, X, sometimes we actually pay 3 to 5% extra premium because those suppliers says your QA is insane. The ones that you'll reject works with everybody else because the idea was it's gifting. You're sending something free. Nobody will complain. But we were holding them to a higher standard and got a lot of pushback in the early days. So that's interesting. But in US, right, it's largely a norm, which is raw products, people don't do QA.
And even they probably do audits by batch.
By batch.
And that's about it. It's not every single product.
Thanks for sharing what all you shared. Any last message for us? Anything that you want to leave us with, something to think about or something you want to share?
I would be very brutally honest. This industry is not easy to work in, but this industry is also the people who work hard also take care of them in the long run. When I say take care, you can make an excellent career out of this. You can make a lot of money, you can have a lot of fame, and you can go places with this industry. But it does require a lot of grit, a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication, and a lot of learning. And without that, if you're not doing that, then promotion industry is not doing it.
Looks like we're in the same industry and in the right one. So hopefully, I think with all the things that you've said, is something very close to us. And I think the team has shown in the last 2 years what they've been able to build and validate. And I think we're just getting started. So super excited to take this forward. But thanks Prashant for being here and thanks for sharing all these insights.
Thank you.